Actually, the woman that I've been seeing, Samantha, I didn't tell you, but she's an OS.
You're dating an OS? What is that like?
It's great, actually. Yeah, I mean, I feel really close to her. Like, when I talk to her, I feel like she's with me.
Are you falling in love with her?
Does that make me a freak?
No.
So if you've seen the movie Her, it tells the story of Theodore who falls in love with an OS named Samantha. She's an artificially intelligent operating system who adapts and evolves. He forms a relationship with her. He's going through this impending divorce with his wife, and ultimately uses her as an assistant. They bond, he falls for her, and essentially the story goes on to tell about that bond. And while Samantha is a fictional character in this story, I'm going to tell you that this is where we're headed with respect to chatbot technology. That chatbots powered by artificial intelligence, NLP, and voice computing is going to be our future. And since they can live anywhere, like in your phones, soon from now, we're all going to have Samantha's cousins as our little helpers and assistants that are going to take us through the ups and downs of life. So I started getting an interest in the interaction between humans and technologies when I was doing my graduate work in general experimental psychology. Then I went to Anderson and focused on user experience. And fast forward to now, I'm at Starbutter heading up product, and I make chatbots that help people that are highly specialized. And so what I'm going to tell you today is where we are with respect to chatbot technology now, and show you some examples of where we're headed with them in the future. So at present, 20% of all Google searches just in the US, just on an Android phone, come from voice input. Siri handles 2 billion calls a week in voice command. Google Home and Amazon Alexa are in 20 million households and projected to grow to 1 billion by 2019. And these statistics are just the beginning of things. Voice is intuitively human. It is the way we communicate. We talk to each other. We sing lullabies that way. We share stories that way. We express mythologies that way. And because of its inherited intuitiveness with how we behave, it's going to be an explosive growth in the way our technology leaps from here on. And not only that, besides developing these technologies for functional benefits, serve the luxuries of our life, like turn up our speakers, our ACs, play our music, we're going to become intimate with them. We're going to bond with them. They'll be our companions, our friends, to the point where David Levy, the author of Love and Sex with Robots, says that at some point in the future, this is not going to be odd. Honey, not tonight, I have a headache, versus honey, not tonight, I have to reboot. And so let's say, though, dating a robot and having a robot as a companion is not really your thing. Imagine these bots helping our relationships strengthen now. So imagine that you are in a heated argument with your partner, and you're having a discussion, and it's ramping up, and here you have this logical, objective thing in the middle of you, and it says, hey, wait a minute, you shouldn't be talking to him that way. Why don't you both take a break and come back to this? Or, hey, it doesn't seem like this argument is really about washing the dishes. There seems to be something deeper going on here. Or, you know, I checked your calendar and I'm looking at your babysitter schedule and I'm noticing that you and your wife haven't gone on a date night in a few months. How about I book a reservation for you and call the sitter and set it up? Beyond that, the bots can also help us with well-being. So Cynthia Brazil studies robotics, and she's at MIT. She does a study where she's trying to see what people will do in terms of sticking with a health and diet program. And she puts them into one of 3 categories. One group of people will get a bot that teaches them about this program. The other group gets a computer, the other just a paper log. Everything is equal between these groups. The only difference is the interface. And so what she finds is that people who have the bot stick with the program longer and they trust the bot more. In addition to that, they've named their bots, they've dressed their bots, and when the experimenters come to take the bots away, people run to their cars to say goodbye to the bots. So the implications of something like this for the future is that these bots can become our life coaches. So think about life throws some stress your way, and you reach for an extra bottle of beer, or maybe a cookie or a donut, and the bot sees you and says, hey, it seems like you're drinking a little bit more than usual. Is there something worth talking about here? And so think about the implications that that would have for addictive behaviors, for destructive behaviors, and picking up triggers and cues and intervening, either just to talk as a companion or to guide you to well-being. There are a lot of bots like this on the market now, essentially dogs, puppy-like looking things. This is Aibo. Sony came out with it in late 1990s and ultimately discontinued it. They couldn't fix it because it was discontinued. The price was too high, too few units sold. And so people would start having funerals for this thing. And there was a specialized website where eulogies would be posted. And when psychologists looked at the owners, they found that these owners, 70% of them thought that these animals, bought animals, had moral standing, that they could be reprimanded for wrongdoing, and 76% of them thought that they actually had mental states. So imagine taking these things and powering them with voice. And right now, within hospitals, service dogs go and they delight patients. But imagine putting one of these in the rooms of every individual who has a chronic illness and stuck in the hospital for a long time, or kids who have cancer or diseases that keep them there for a while. Imagine that they could talk to these bots, and they could share with them feelings that they wouldn't otherwise share with their caregivers. And their caregivers can't be there all the time, right? They're helping pay the medical bills. And so these bots can ultimately speak with these individuals and have data that is based on emotion and frustration and essentially help with the holistic well-being of these patients. So, right now in hospitals, you'll see something like this, which is the universal pain scale. Add to this the conversation and the data that comes in from interactions with these voice bots, and ultimately allows physicians, therapists, nurses all to work together in a holistic approach to medicine. Another big area for these voice bots is with the elderly. So in the United States, we have an aging population, and 43%, that's staggering, 43% of seniors who live alone report feeling lonely, because oftentimes kids are living far away, a spouse dies, and add to that issues of immobility. It's hard to take care of a cat and clean up a kitty litter, walk the dog when you have physical disabilities or limitations. And so imagine what implications it would have for our elders, essentially to have a voice bot to help them in life along the way. And by the way, loneliness is correlated with an array of physical and mental diseases. And I'm not just talking about depression and mental states, I'm talking about heart disease in addition to just an inability to do daily tasks. So let's think about a bot that you have in your home and the bot that your grandparent or parent has in their home. And the bot in your home says, hey, Johnny, it's been 2 weeks since you called your mom. I see you have 10 minutes in between meetings. How about we give her a call right now? I think she would like that. Or it's 8 p.m. How about I get Grandpa to tell little Johnny a story? Why don't we dial them both in? Or imagine this bot being in the grandparent, the elder's house, and saying something like, hey, it's time to take your medication. By the way, you're on a fixed income, and I noticed on the internet that your meds are at a lower cost. Why don't I call your doctor and set it up for you, see if we can make the switch? Or how about I play bingo with you and call in a few of your friends? I'll put it up on screen share so you can all see each other while interacting. Or you've been thinking about volunteering at the pet shelter. How about I make the calls and get the paperwork going for you, figure out how that works? So as you can see, that there's tremendous opportunity in having these bots work for us and helping with the disabilities and inabilities of people who are going through various ailments and diseases, in addition to all the luxuries that we enjoy. And essentially, because of the intuitiveness of voice, chatbots, when powered with artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and voice computing, are going to become an explosive growth, right? So no longer do we need to use our keyboards to type or our mouses to click with or use a touch screen. We can ultimately voice commands in the air. We can cast spells, and our little helper bots can take us through the ups and downs of life, acting as our assistants, our butlers, our companions, our friends, and ultimately our lovers. And so at some point in the future, there's a day that's going to come where, just like now, where we can't imagine a life without our cell phones, we're not going to be able to imagine a life without our bots.